The rain hammered against the old farmhouse windows like tiny fists demanding entry. Harrison Cole sat by the dying embers of his fireplace, a worn paperback dangling from his fingers as he drifted toward sleep. 3 years since the ceasefire with the Illyrians, and still he jumped at every unexpected sound. Tonight, the only noises were familiar ones. The crackle of burning wood, the occasional whimper from Rex as the old dog dreamed at his feet, and the relentless drumming of rain on the roof. When the knock came at his door, so faint he almost missed it beneath the storm's fury, Harrison's body tensed before his mind fully registered the sound. Nobody came to his door, especially not at midnight, not this far from town, not in this weather. He set his book aside and listened. The knock came again, barely audible. Rex raised his head, ears perked forward. "Easy, boy," Harrison murmured, reaching for the shotgun he kept beside his chair. He didn't expect trouble. Most people had forgotten about him out here, but the war had taught him caution. He moved silently to the door, Rex padding behind him. The floorboards creaked beneath his feet, betraying his approach despite his care. Standing to the side of the entrance, he called out, "Who's there?" No answer came, just another soft knock. Harrison took a deep breath and turned the handle, pulling the door open in one swift motion, keeping his body shielded behind the wall. The sight that greeted him stole his breath away. A woman stood on his porch. No, not a woman. An Illyrian female. Her skin was a pale lavender in the dim porch light, almost translucent where the rain had plastered her torn clothes against her slender frame. Behind her huddled 2 children, their features a blend of human and Illyrian, mixed-blood children, the kind most reviled by both species. Rex growled low in his throat, but made no move to attack. The Illyrian woman's large, almond-shaped eyes fixed on Harrison with desperate intensity. "Please," she said in accented English, "give us shelter." "I will," she faltered, glancing at the children clinging to her legs. "I will become your mate if you accept to be father to my children." Harrison felt as though he'd been punched in the gut. The rain continued to pour down on them, soaking the small family to the bone. The children, a boy who looked about 6 and a girl perhaps 3 years older, shivered visibly. Behind them, only darkness and the rain-swept fields. They had come from nowhere with nothing. Every instinct honed by years of solitude screamed for him to close the door, to send them away. Illyrians had been the enemy. Their war had cost him everything he'd ever loved. But the children's eyes— "Get inside," he said gruffly, stepping back from the doorway. "You're letting the rain in." Relief washed over the woman's face as she ushered the children through the door. They moved past him like frightened deer, keeping their eyes downcast. "Thank you," the woman whispered. "We won't trouble you long." Harrison shut the door against the storm and turned to face his unexpected guests. Water pooled on his wooden floor beneath them. The children huddled against their mother, watching him with eyes too old for their young faces. "Wait here," he said, then disappeared into the back room. He returned with worn but clean towels and thrust them at the woman. "Dry yourselves off. You can sit by the fire." As they moved toward the hearth, Harrison added another log to the dying flames. The sudden flare of light illuminated the woman's face more clearly. High cheekbones, those distinctive Illyrian eyes with their vertical pupils, and a network of fine scars along one side of her face. Battle scars, he recognized. He'd seen enough of those. Rex approached the children cautiously, sniffing. The boy reached out a trembling hand, and to Harrison's surprise, Rex allowed the touch, even wagging his tail slightly. "What's your name?" Harrison asked the woman as she dried her children's hair. "Zarin," she replied. "These are my children, Elara and Kiv." Harrison nodded, not offering his own name yet. "Are you running from something?" Zarin's eyes darted to the windows. "From everyone," she said simply. Outside, the distant hum of a patrol flyer drifted through the storm. Harrison moved to the window, peering out into the darkness. "This is going to change everything," he muttered to himself, knowing already that nothing would ever be the same again. Morning light filtered through the dusty windows, casting long shadows across Harrison's kitchen. He moved about with practiced efficiency, preparing a simple breakfast of fried eggs and toast. More food than he normally made, accommodating the three strangers who had appeared in the middle of the night. Zarin sat at the table, her posture unnaturally straight, eyes following his movements. The children had been settled on the old couch, wrapped in blankets he'd pulled from storage. They slept still, exhaustion evident in their slack faces. "Where did you find this place?" Harrison asked, setting a plate before her. "We didn't," Zarin admitted, staring at the food as if uncertain whether to eat. "We've been walking for days. Your light was the first we've seen." Harrison grunted, taking the seat across from her. "Eat. You need your strength." She picked up the fork cautiously, taking a small bite. Something like wonder crossed her face at the simple taste. "Thank you." They ate in silence for a few minutes before Harrison spoke again. "That offer you made last night." He cleared his throat. "That's not necessary." Zarin's eyes met his. "On my world, when children lose their father, their mother must find a new mate or risk having them taken away. I thought human customs might be similar. They're not." Harrison pushed his plate away. "Nobody's taking your kids while you're under my roof. But I'm not looking for—" He gestured vaguely between them. A flicker of relief passed over her face, quickly replaced by concern. "We cannot stay long. It's dangerous for you." "Because harboring Illyrians is illegal," Harrison stated. Zarin nodded. "Especially mixed-blood children." Harrison glanced at the sleeping forms on his couch. The girl, Elara, had her mother's lavender skin but human eyes. The boy, Kiv, looked almost human except for the distinctive Illyrian ear shape and faint purple undertones to his olive skin. Their father, Harrison began, then hesitated, was half-human. Zarin completed his thought. "A scientist who worked to bring our species together. He was killed in the final battles, near the human colony borders." Her voice remained even, but her hands trembled slightly. "My clan rejected us when I returned with hybrid children. They called it tainted blood." Harrison's jaw tightened. He recognized the cruelty of prejudice all too well. "The war took my family too," he said, surprising himself with the admission. "My wife and daughter were in the coastal settlement when the Illyrian Third Fleet attacked. I was away, serving at the Northern Front." The bitter irony still burned after all these years. "Fighting while they died." "I'm sorry," Zarin said quietly. Outside, Rex barked, the sound jolting both of them. Harrison moved to the window just as an old truck rumbled down the dirt road that passed his property. "Old Man Jenkins," he muttered. "Nosy bastard." The truck slowed as it passed the farmhouse, the driver clearly eyeing the place with interest. Harrison knew what had caught Jenkins' attention. He hadn't had smoke coming from his chimney during morning hours in years. Someone would be talking in town before noon. As the truck disappeared from view, a small voice came from the living room. "Mom." Zarin immediately went to her son, who had woken and was looking around the unfamiliar surroundings with confusion. The girl was stirring too, her eyes wide with alarm until they found her mother. "It's all right," Zarin soothed. "We're safe for now." Harrison watched them, feeling like an intruder in his own home. The boy caught sight of him and shrank back. "This is Harrison," Zarin explained to her children. "He's letting us stay here. For a little while," Harrison added quickly, "until you figure out your next move." The girl, Elara, studied him with unsettling intensity. "Are you going to be our new father?" she asked directly, making Harrison nearly choke on his coffee. "Elara," Zarin admonished softly. "No," Harrison said firmly. "I'm just helping out." Kiv's small face fell in disappointment, and Harrison felt an unexpected pang in his chest. He turned away, muttering about chores that needed doing. Out in the barn, mucking stalls and feeding the two old horses he kept more for company than use, Harrison tried to clear his head. 3 years he'd spent rebuilding his life into something solitary and predictable. 3 years of carefully constructed emotional walls to keep the pain at bay. And now this. An Illyrian woman and her half-human children threatening to complicate everything. He should send them away. It was the sensible thing to do. Harboring Illyrians was punishable by imprisonment, and mixed-blood children were supposed to be registered with the authorities. If they were discovered here, the barn door creaked, and Harrison turned to find Alara standing there, watching him curiously. "Your dog is nice," she said. Harrison wiped sweat from his brow. "Rex likes most people. Better judge of character than I am. Mom says we shouldn't bother you." The girl took a step closer. "But I wanted to see the horses." Against his better judgment, Harrison beckoned her over. "This old fellow is Thunder. He's about 20 now, too old for much riding. And that Star." Alara approached cautiously, reaching a small hand toward Thunder's nose. The horse nickered softly. "He likes you," Harrison observed. A smile broke across the girl's face, transforming her. Serious expression. "On the colony where we lived, we had animals like these, but bigger. Dad called them draft horses. He taught me to ride." The casual mention of her father caught Harrison off guard. "You remember him well?" Alara nodded, her smile fading. "He used to sing to us at night. Songs from Earth." She glanced up at Harrison. "Do you know Earth songs?" The question, so innocent, struck something deep within him. He remembered singing to his own daughter, tucking her in at night. "A few," he managed to say. "Could you?" Alara began, but was interrupted as Zarin appeared in the doorway. "Alara, come inside now. Mr. Cole has work to do." Harrison almost corrected her. He hadn't told him his last name, but then realized she must have seen it on the mailbox. "She's fine," he said instead. "She's just meeting the horses." Zarin hesitated, clearly torn between allowing her daughter this small pleasure and not imposing on their reluctant host. "Very well, but only for a few minutes." As she turned to leave, Harrison called after her. "There's a pump around back if you want to wash up. Water's cold, but clean." Zarin nodded her thanks, leaving them alone again. "Your mother worries about you," Harrison said, returning to his chores. "She worries about everything," Alara replied matter-of-factly. "Ever since Dad died." She stroked Thunder's nose gently. "Are you going to make us leave soon?" Harrison's hands stilled on the pitchfork. "Would that be so bad? There must be somewhere else you can go." Alara shook her head. "The Illyrians don't want us because we're part human. The humans don't want us because we're part Illyrian." Her voice held no self-pity, just a statement of facts. "Mom says we need to find our people, but I don't think we have any." The brutal honesty of the child's assessment left Harrison speechless. He resumed his work, unable to look at her as he processed her words. "You could be our people," Alara suggested quietly. Before Harrison could formulate a response, the distant sound of an engine drew their attention. This time, it wasn't Jenkins' truck, but the distinctive hum of a government patrol vehicle. "Inside now," Harrison ordered, all gentleness gone from his voice. Alara's eyes widened with fear, but she obeyed immediately, running for the house. Harrison followed more slowly, making sure not to appear hurried as he emerged from the barn just as a black SUV with government markings pulled up his drive. Rex began barking furiously from inside the house. Harrison prayed Zarin would have the sense to hide herself and the children. Two officers stepped out of the vehicle, their uniforms bearing the insignia of the Border Security Force. Harrison squared his shoulders, approaching them with a carefully neutral expression. "Can I help you, officers?" The taller of the two, a woman with short-cropped hair and cold eyes, flashed a badge. "Agent Davis, Border Security. This is Agent Thompson. We're conducting routine checks in the area following reports of unregistered alien activity." "Haven't seen any aliens around here," Harrison replied evenly. Agent Thompson, a stocky man with a permanent scowl, held up a device. "Mind if we scan your property?" "Just standard procedure." "Actually, I do mind," Harrison said, crossing his arms. "Do you have a warrant?" The agents exchanged glances. "Sir, harboring unregistered Illyrians is a federal offense," Agent Davis said, "especially Class B hybrids. If you're aware of any in the area." "Like I said," Harrison interrupted, "haven't seen any. Now, if there's nothing else, I've got work to do." Agent Thompson stepped closer, his hand resting casually on his holstered weapon. "Jenkins from town says he saw smoke from your chimney early this morning. Says that's unusual for you. Having guests, Mr. Cole." Harrison met the man's gaze steadily. "My business is my own, officer. unless the laws change to require me to report when I decide to have a fire. The law requires you to cooperate with border security, Davis countered. And I am, by telling you there are no aliens here. Harrison gestured toward his property. Feel free to come back with a warrant if you think I'm lying. A tense silence followed, broken only by Rex's continued barking from inside the house. Finally, Davis nodded curtly. We'll be watching this area closely, Mr. Cole. If we find out you're hiding anything. She let the threat hang unfinished. Have a good day, officers, Harrison replied, not moving from his spot until they had climbed back into their vehicle and driven away. Only when the SUV had disappeared down the road did he allow his shoulders to sag. He hurried back to the house, finding Zoran and the children huddled in the root cellar beneath the kitchen floor, a hiding spot his grandfather had dug during more troubled times. They're gone, he announced, helping them up. For now. Zoran's face was ashen. We've put you in danger. We should leave tonight and go where? Harrison demanded. They're watching the area now. You wouldn't make it 5 miles. We can't stay, she insisted. If they find us here, you'll be arrested. Or worse. Harrison ran a hand through his graying hair. Let me think. That evening, after a tense day where every distant sound made them all jump, Harrison sat by the fire while the children slept upstairs in a spare room. Zoran sat across from him, her face illuminated by the dancing flames. Tell me about Illyrian customs, Harrison said suddenly, breaking the lengthy silence. Zoran looked surprised by the question. What would you like to know? This mate thing. How does it work on your world? She hesitated before answering. It's more than just marriage, as you would understand it. When Illyrians bond, there's a physical connection, an energy exchange. She gestured vaguely. It's difficult to explain in human terms. Try me. Zoran shifted in her seat. Our bodies generate a type of bioelectrical field. When we care deeply for someone, these fields can synchronize, creating a bond that's partly physical, partly spiritual. It's especially strong between mates or parents and children. As she spoke, Harrison noticed the lights in the room flickering slightly. Is that happening now? He asked, nodding toward the lamp. Zoran looked embarrassed. I am sorry. When I feel safe or emotional, it can affect electrical systems around me. And this bonding, it happened with your husband? Yes. Her voice softened. Taran was half human, but his Illyrian heritage was strong enough for the bond to form. Our children carry the same ability. And you offered to bond with me? Just like that. Zoran's eyes met his. It was desperation speaking. On my world, when a widowed female with children finds someone willing to protect them, a bond is sometimes formed out of necessity rather than love. It's survival. She looked away. I shouldn't have suggested it. Harrison leaned forward, elbows on his knees. What happens to your children if you don't find a new mate? In Illyrian society, they would be taken and raised separately in different clan houses. Their mixed heritage would make them servants at best, experiments at worst. Her hands clenched in her lap. I won't let that happen. And in human society, the authorities would separate us immediately. I would be detained or deported. They would be placed in specialized facilities for hybrid children. Those places. She shuddered. I've heard stories. Harrison stared into the fire, wrestling with thoughts he never expected to have. This bond, can it happen between any two people? No. Zoran shook her head. There must be compatibility, a resonance between energies. It's rare between different species. How would you know if it's possible? Zoran studied him curiously. Physical contact sometimes reveals compatibility. A sensation like, I believe humans call it electricity between people. Harrison considered this. Then, before he could talk himself out of it, he reached across the space between them and took her hand. The effect was immediate and startling. Every light in the room brightened momentarily, and a warmth unlike anything Harrison had ever felt spread up his arm and through his chest. Zoran gasped, her eyes widening. That's unusual, she whispered, staring at their joined hands. Harrison wanted to pull away, but found he couldn't, or wouldn't. What does it mean? It means there's potential, Zoran said softly. But potential doesn't equal obligation, Harrison. I would never. The sound of vehicles approaching pulled them apart. Harrison moved quickly to the window, cursing under his breath at the sight of multiple sets of headlights coming up his drive. They're back, and they brought friends, he said grimly. Get the children. Use the cellar again. They'll search more thoroughly this time, Zarin warned, already heading for the stairs. I'll handle it. Harrison grabbed his shotgun. Go! Within minutes, Zarin and the children were hidden, and Harrison stood on his porch as 3 vehicles, 2 border security SUVs and a larger transport van, pulled up to his house. 6 agents emerged, including Davis and Thompson from earlier. Mr. Cole, Davis called, approaching the porch. We have a warrant to search these premises. Harrison eyed the paper she held out. Awful fast work for one day. We take alien concealment very seriously, she replied coldly. Please step aside. Harrison made a show of reading the warrant before reluctantly stepping back. Search all you want. There's nothing to find. The agents spread out, 2 heading for the barn while the others entered the house. Harrison followed them inside, keeping his expression neutral as they began a methodical search. Rex growled from where Harrison had tied him in the kitchen, earning a suspicious glance from Thompson. Dog. Doesn't like strangers, Harrison explained. Or maybe he's agitated because you're hiding something, Thompson suggested. The search continued, growing more aggressive as minutes passed with no discovery. Furniture was moved, closets emptied, floorboards examined. Harrison's heart nearly stopped when one agent paused near the kitchen, his boot resting directly above the hidden cellar door. Found anything? Davis asked, entering the room. Not yet, the agent replied, away from the spot. Harrison allowed himself a small breath of relief, but it was short-lived as Thompson emerged from the living room, holding a small purple object. What's this? He demanded, showing it to Harrison. Harrison's mind raced. It was clearly Illyrian in design, some kind of child's toy that Kiv must have dropped. No idea, he lied. Owner must have left it. Thompson's eyes narrowed. Previous owner? You've lived here 30 years, Cole. Found? Called another agent. Harrison's blood ran cold as they all met. In the bedroom that had briefly been occupied by Zarin and her children, the agent held up several long strands of hair, lavender. Well, Davis said, turning to Harrison with triumph in her eyes. Want to revise your statement, Mr. Cole. Before Harrison could respond, a loud electrical surge. Lights flickered wildly, then went out completely, plunging them into darkness. What the hell? Thompson exclaimed. In the confusion that followed, with agents fumbling for flashlights, Harrison felt a tingling sensation sweep over him, the same feeling he'd experienced when touching Zarin's hand. Somehow, he knew what she was trying to tell him. Must be the old wiring, Harrison said casually. Happens all the time. Generators should kick in soon. As if on cue, dim emergency lights came on, but they were strangely distorted, creating misshapen shadows that seemed to move of their own accord. The agents looked unsettled. Sir, one of them called to Davis. The equipment's malfunctioning. All readings are off the charts. Davis frowned, looking around suspiciously. Continue the search. Use manual methods if necessary. The strange electrical phenomena intensified. Flashlights flickered or died completely. Communication devices emitted piercing feedback. Even the vehicles outside began honking sporadically, their alarms triggered by unknown forces. What kind of game are you playing, Cole? Davis demanded. No game, Harrison replied calmly. But this house is over 100 years old. Wiring's temperamental. Maybe all your fancy equipment is causing interference. As the disruptions continued, the agents grew increasingly agitated. Equipment failures mounted, and a growing sense of unease permeated the group. Finally, after nearly an hour of fruitless searching hampered by inexplicable technical difficulties, Davis called off the search. We'll be back, Cole, she promised as they prepared to leave, with specialized equipment and a full team. Looking forward to it, Harrison replied dryly. He waited until all vehicles had disappeared before rushing to the cellar. When he opened the hidden door, he found Zarin huddled with her children, her face strained with concentration, a faint purple glow emanating from her skin. "They're gone," he announced, helping them up. "What did you do?" "Electromagnetic disruption," Zarin explained weakly. "It's a defense mechanism. I haven't had to use it since the war." She stumbled as she reached the top step, and Harrison caught her reflexively. The moment their skin touched, the same electric sensation flowed between them, though fainter now. Zarin was clearly exhausted. "You need to rest," Harrison said, guiding her to a chair. "We need to leave," she countered. "They'll be back, better prepared." "Mom," Kiv's small voice interrupted them. "Are the bad people gone?" Zarin forced a smile. "Yes, darling. They're gone for now. They called us aliens," Alara said quietly. "But Dad said we're just people." Harrison knelt to her level. "Your dad was right. You were just people." Alara studied him for a moment, then threw her arms around his neck in a sudden hug. Harrison froze, then awkwardly patted her back, feeling something crack open inside his chest. "Thank you for not letting them take us," she whispered. That night, after the children were asleep, Harrison and Zarin sat in the kitchen, planning their next move. "They found evidence," Harrison pointed out. "They'll get a more comprehensive warrant, bring better equipment, maybe even Illyrian detection specialists." "Then we have to go tonight," Zarin insisted. "There's a patrol watching the road," Harrison countered, having spotted their vehicle while checking the perimeter earlier. "And they'll be monitoring all transportation hubs within 50 miles. Zarin pressed her palms against her eyes. "There's nowhere left." Her eyes. "There's nowhere left to run." A crazy idea had been forming in Harrison's mind throughout the evening. "There might be a way," he said slowly, "but it's risky." "What?" "This bond you mentioned. If we were to formalize it somehow, would there be physical evidence? Something that might convince the authorities?" Zarin stared at him. "You can't be serious. Dead serious. If you and I were legally bonded, married in human terms, it might give the children protected status. Mixed families have more rights under the new peace accord. But the bond itself, the Illyrian aspect, it can't be forced," Zarin explained. "It forms naturally or not at all." Harrison reached for her hand again, prepared this time for the surge of energy that flowed between them. "This seems pretty natural to me." Zarin's eyes glistened in the low light. "You would do this? Take responsibility for us legally, knowing the risks?" "I've been alone a long time," Harrison said quietly. "Maybe too long." Zarin studied their joined hands. "In my culture, when a widow with children bonds with a new mate, it's called the second hearth. It's considered as sacred as a first bonding, sometimes more so because it's born of choice rather than arrangement." "How will we do this?" "The Illyrian way, I mean. It's simple, really. We would join hands as we are now. I would open my energy field completely, and if you're truly compatible, yours would respond in kind." She hesitated. "But Harrison, this isn't just a legal formality. A true bond would connect us in ways you can't imagine." "Show me," he said simply. Zarin took a deep breath and closed her eyes. At first, nothing seemed to happen. Then Harrison felt it, a warmth spreading from their joined hands, up his arms, into his chest. The kitchen lights began to flicker, then glow brighter than normal. A humming sound filled the air, and Harrison felt as though something was flowing out of him while something else flowed in. An exchange of energy, of essence. Memories that weren't his flashed through his mind. A purple sky above alien mountains, the feeling of flying, the pain of childbirth, the aching loss of a beloved partner. Alongside these, he sensed Zarin experiencing his own memories, his childhood on the farm, the joy of his wedding day, the birth of his daughter, the devastating news of their deaths. Tears streamed down both their faces as the connection deepened. The entire house glowed now, light pouring from every window, bright enough to be seen for miles. "Mom? Dad?" Alara's voice came from the doorway. She and Kiv stood there, wide-eyed, watching the phenomenon. To Harrison's surprise, he felt an immediate connection to them as well. Tendrils of the same energy reaching out from his heart to theirs, forming bonds that felt ancient and new simultaneously. "Come," Zarin said softly, extending her free hand toward her children. They approached cautiously. Then each took one of their mother's hands. The circle completed. The energy surged once more, a final, powerful wave that swept through all four of them before settling into a steady, warm presence. The lights returned to normal, but Harrison knew something fundamental had changed. He could feel them all. Zarin's exhausted relief, Ilara's cautious hope, Kiv's childish wonder, as distant emotions alongside his own. "Is it done?" Harrison asked hoarsely. Zarin nodded, tears still tracking down her cheeks. "We are bonded. What happens now?" Ilara asked. Before anyone could answer, the sound of approaching vehicles once again broke the night silence. But these weren't border security SUVs. Through the window, Harrison could see sleek, silvery craft unlike any human vehicles he knew. "Illyrians," Zarin whispered, a mixture of fear and hope in her voice. Harrison moved to the door, positioning himself protectively in front of his newly formed family. Outside, 3 Illyrian crafts had landed in his field. Tall, elegant figures emerged, their skin ranging from deep purple to pale lavender. The leader approached the house, stopping respectfully several yards from the porch. "I am Commander Vex of the Illyrian Diplomatic Corps," he announced in flawless English. "We detected a full bonding ceremony from orbit. This is unexpected." Harrison stepped forward. "My name is Harrison Cole. This is my home, and these are my family." The words felt right as he said them. The commander's vertical pupils widened slightly. A human Illyrian bond hasn't been registered since before the war. And with children. He glanced behind Harrison to where Zarin now stood with Ilara and Kiv. "The children are mixed blood. They're my children now," Harrison stated firmly. Commander Vex seemed to consider this. The new peace accord was ratified yesterday. Under its terms, mixed families have protected status. He tilted his head curiously. "Did you know this when you performed the bonding?" "Would it matter if I did?" Harrison challenged. A slight smile curved the commander's mouth. "No, I suppose not. The bond cannot be faked. Our sensors confirm it's genuine." He bowed slightly. "In which case, congratulations are in order. You are now officially recognized as a family unit under both human and Illyrian law." Relief washed over Harrison, but it was short-lived as the sound of additional vehicles approached, the border security forces returning. Commander Vex straightened. "Allow me to handle this diplomatic matter." What followed was a tense confrontation between Illyrian diplomats and human security forces. Harrison watched from his porch as Commander Vex presented Agent Davis with official documentation bearing the seals of both governments. Though clearly furious, Davis could do nothing in the face of diplomatic immunity now extended to Harrison's household. "This isn't over," she warned Harrison before departing. "Actually, I believe it is," Commander Vex contradicted smoothly. Once the border security vehicles had gone, he turned back to Harrison and Zarin. "However, your situation remains precarious. Border regions are still unstable. The Illyrian government offers sanctuary to all mixed families during this transition period." "Sanctuary where?" Harrison asked. "In Illyrian territory, or in the new joint colony being established on the continent's eastern coast." Vex handed Zarin a communication device. "Consider your options carefully. You will be welcome among us." After the Illyrians departed, Harrison sat heavily on the porch steps. The night's events felt surreal, yet the new presence he felt within himself, the connection to Zarin and the children, was undeniably real. "What will we do?" Zarin asked, sitting beside him. Harrison looked out at his land, the farm that had been in his family for generations, now bearing scorch marks from Illyrian craft landings. Beyond, he could see the barn where his father had taught him to ride, the fields where he'd once imagined his own children would play. "This is my home," he said slowly. "But home isn't just a place." Zarin's hand found his, the now familiar energy flowing comfortably between them. "No, it isn't." A week later, Harrison stood in what remained of his farmhouse. Most of their belongings had already been loaded onto the transport that would take them to the joint colony. The children were outside, playing with Rex one last time in the fields. Zarin found him in the empty living room, staring at the cold fireplace. Having second thoughts? She asked gently. Harrison shook his head. Just saying goodbye. We could stay, she offered, though they both knew the risks would remain. There's nothing left for me here but ghosts, Harrison said. The past belongs to the past. Zarin stepped closer, resting her hand on his chest. Through their bond, he felt her understanding, her gratitude, and something else that was slowly growing between them. Not yet love, perhaps, but its foundation. Are you ready? She asked. Harrison nodded, taking her hand. Together they walked out into the sunlight where Alara and Kiv waited, their faces bright with excitement for the journey ahead. Dad, will there be horses where we're going? Kiv asked, using the title that now felt natural to all of them. I don't know, Harrison admitted. But if not, we'll find some. As they boarded the transport, Harrison took one last look at the farmhouse. He thought of that rainy night when a knock on his door had changed everything. Some knocks, he realized, were worth answering, no matter how frightening the prospect. Some strangers were worth welcoming, no matter the risk. As the transport lifted off, Harrison felt Zarin's hand tighten around his. Through their bond, he sensed her mix of hope and trepidation. The children pressed their faces against the viewing ports, watching as the only home they'd known grew smaller beneath them. Tell us about where we're going, Alara requested, turning from the window. Harrison looked to Zarin, who smiled encouragingly. The joint colony is new territory, he explained. A place where humans and Illyrians are building something together, rather than fighting over what already exists. Will there be other kids like us? Kiv asked. Some, Zarin answered. Not many yet, but you won't be alone. The Illyrian pilot announced they would reach the colony in approximately 2 hours. As they soared above the landscape, Harrison marveled at how quickly his life had transformed. A week ago, he had been a solitary man haunted by the past. Now he was responsible for 3 lives intertwined with his own in ways he was still discovering. What are you thinking? Zarin asked quietly, while the children dozed against each other in the adjacent seats. That I never expected to have a family again, Harrison admitted. Especially not like this. Regrets. Harrison considered the question. No, he said finally. Concerns about what lies ahead, yes. But not regrets. Zarin's expression softened. Among my people, there's a saying, the brightest stars are born from the darkest spaces. Our darkest moments brought us together. Harrison nodded, understanding the deeper meaning behind her words. Both had experienced profound loss. Both had survived wars that took everything they loved. Yet here they were, creating something new from the ashes. As they approached the colony, Harrison was struck by its appearance, a harmonious blend of human and Illyrian architecture. Dome-shaped buildings constructed with earth materials stood alongside crystalline structures that seemed to capture and amplify the sunlight. The central area featured a large plaza where members of both species mingled freely. Welcome to New Dawn Colony, the pilot announced as they descended. They were greeted by a mixed delegation, 2 humans and 2 Illyrians, all wearing matching uniforms with a symbol representing both worlds. The Kolzarin family, one of the humans asked, consulting a datapad. We've been expecting you. That's us, Harrison confirmed, still getting used to the sound of their combined names. Your residence is prepared, an Illyrian official added. Commander Vex informed us of your situation. Special accommodations have been made for your family's unique bonding. As they were escorted through the colony, Harrison noted the curious glances they received, some friendly, others wary. They weren't the first mixed family, but they were clearly still a rarity. Their new home was a modest dwelling on the colony's outskirts, offering some privacy while still being within the safety perimeter. It had been designed with thoughtful touches from both cultures, a human-style kitchen alongside an Illyrian meditation space, bedrooms that could adjust lighting to either species' preference. It's beautiful, Zarin breathed, running her hand along a wall embedded with bioluminescent crystals. Rex immediately began exploring, sniffing every corner of their new territory. The children followed suit, exclaiming over each discovery with growing excitement. There's a garden, Alara called from the back door, and I can see other houses nearby. A colony administrator remained behind after the others left, explaining practical matters, food distribution, education options for the children, work assignments for adults. Both of you will need to undergo orientation, she explained. But given your backgrounds, we have several positions that might suit your skills. The colony is particularly in need of people with agricultural knowledge, Mr. Cole. Farming is what I know, Harrison acknowledged. And you, Zarin, your file indicates experience in energy systems? Zarin nodded. I worked in power distribution before the war. Excellent. We've been having some integration issues between human and Illyrian technology. The administrator smiled. You may be exactly what we need. After she left, Harrison and Zarin stood in the main room of their new home, the reality of their situation finally sinking in. So, Harrison said, this is really happening. Second thoughts now? Zarin asked, a hint of worry in her voice. Harrison shook his head. Just adjusting. I've been alone so long. I've forgotten how to be part of something. We'll learn together, Zarin. It grows stronger with time, connecting us more deeply. As if to demonstrate, she reached for his hand. The familiar energy flowed between them, but there was something new this time. Images of possible futures, glimpses of what might be. The children growing taller, the four of them working together in a garden, moments of both struggle and joy. Was that? Harrison began. Potential, Zarin explained. The bond sometimes shows possibilities. Not certainties, just paths we might walk together. That night, after settling the children into their new rooms and making sure Rex was comfortable in his designated area, Harrison stood on the small balcony of their dwelling, looking out at the unfamiliar stars. The colony's lights created a gentle glow around them, neither as harsh as human cities nor as ethereal as Illyrian settlements. Something new, born of both worlds. Zarin joined him, wrapping a shawl around her shoulders against the night's chill. The children are finally asleep, she reported. They're exhausted but excited. Alara is already planning how to arrange her room, and Kiv wants to know when he can start school. Harrison smiled. Children adapted so quickly, he thought. Perhaps adults could learn from them. What about you? He asked. How are you feeling about all this? Zarin was quiet for a moment, gazing at the stars. Grateful, she finally said. When I knocked on your door that night, I had exhausted all other options. I was prepared to beg, to offer anything. She paused. I never expected to find someone who would not only shelter us, but become family. I never expected to open my door to an alien widow and end up moving to a colony. Harrison countered with a slight smile. When you put it that way, it does sound rather improbable, Zarin agreed, returning his smile. They stood in comfortable silence, shoulders almost touching. Through their bond, Harrison could sense Zarin's contentment tinged with lingering concern about the future, a mirror of his own emotions. The administrator mentioned there would be a community gathering tomorrow, Harrison said. A welcome event for new arrivals. Are you comfortable with that? Being so visible? Harrison considered the question. Social gatherings had been something he avoided for years. I think we should go, he decided. If this is our home now, we need to become part of it. Zarin nodded. The children would enjoy meeting others. And it would be good for us too, Harrison added, to see how humans and Illyrians interact here. A light breeze carried unfamiliar scents from the colony gardens, a blend of earth plants and Illyrian flora, creating something unique. It seemed fitting, Harrison thought, like their family. This place was neither fully human nor fully Illyrian, but something new and still evolving. Harrison, Zarin said softly, I want you to know that I understand this bond wasn't formed under ideal circumstances. Among my people, bonding typically follows a long courtship, a deep knowing of each other. We did things backward, Harrison acknowledged. Yes, and I want you to know that I don't expect. She hesitated. The bond creates a connection, but it doesn't dictate feelings. I would never presume. Harrison turned to face her. I may not know much about Illyrian customs, but I know about commitment. When I agreed to this bond, to becoming a father to your children, I meant it. He took her hand, feeling the now familiar energy flow between them. The rest, we'll figure out as we go. Relief flooded through their connection. along with something warmer that neither was ready to name yet. One day at a time, Zarin suggested. One day at a time, Harrison agreed. The following morning brought their first full day in the colony. The children woke early, eager to explore. After a breakfast of strange but palatable food provided by the colony's distribution center, they ventured out as a family. New Dawn Colony was larger than it had appeared from the air. Several thousand residents, approximately 60% human and 40% Illyrian, according to their welcoming materials, lived and worked in various districts. The Central Plaza served as a community gathering place, with smaller neighborhood centers throughout the residential areas. As they walked, Harrison observed the interactions between the species. Some moved together comfortably, while others maintained a careful distance. Occasional mixed couples drew his attention. He noticed they received the same curious glances his family did. "Dad, look!" Kiv pointed excitedly to a play area where several children were gathered. Among them were a few who appeared to be mixed blood, like themselves. "Can we go?" Alara asked, her usual reserve melting at the sight of potential friends. Zara nodded. "Stay where we can see you." As the children ran toward the playground, an Illyrian woman approached them, her skin a deeper purple than Zarin's. Beside her stood a human man, his weathered face suggesting years spent under alien suns. "You must be the new bonded pair," the woman said. "I'm Neres, and this is my mate, Marcus. We're part of the Mixed Family Association." "There's an association?" Harrison asked, surprised. Marcus chuckled. "Just a support group, really. There are 23 mixed families in the colony now, with yours. Most formed before or during the war," Neres added. "Bonds created under complicated circumstances." Zarin relaxed visibly at finding others who might understand their situation. "I'm Zarin, and this is Harrison. Our children are there." She gestured toward Alara and Kiv, who were cautiously approaching the other children. "Beautiful younglings," Neres said approvingly. "Mixed children have unique strengths. Your daughter has strong Illyrian features, while your son favors his human side." "Actually," Harrison began, but Zarin touched his arm lightly. "Thank you," she said simply. Marcus glanced between them knowingly. "Bond still new?" Harrison nodded. "It gets easier," Marcus assured him. 16 years for us, and I'm still discovering new aspects of the connection." "The children are the bridge," Neres added. "They understand both worlds instinctively." They watched as Alara and Kiv began to play with the other children, tentatively at first, then with growing enthusiasm. Within minutes, they were fully engaged in some complex game that seemed to involve elements of both human and Illyrian children's play. "They adapt so quickly," Zara marveled. "Quicker than we do," Marcus agreed. "That's why this colony focuses so much on the young ones. They're literally our future, the generation that won't remember a time before peace." The welcome gathering that evening was held in the Central Plaza. Tables laden with food from both worlds created a curious buffet. Music played, a strange but not unpleasant fusion of human rhythms and Illyrian harmonics. Representatives from both species made speeches about cooperation and new beginnings. Harrison stayed close to Zarin, drawing comfort from her presence as they navigated the social complexities. Through their bond, he could sense her doing the same. "The true pioneers of our united future," the colony administrator was saying, gesturing toward the mixed families gathered near the front. "These brave individuals who have proven that our species are not only compatible, but complementary." Harrison shifted uncomfortably under the attention, but straightened when he felt Alara's small hand slip into his. On his other side, Kiv pressed against his leg. Zarin stood tall beside them, her chin raised with quiet dignity. In that moment, Harrison recognized that they were more than just a family seeking refuge. They were symbols of possibility in this fragile peace. The thought was both daunting and oddly inspiring. Later, as the formal proceedings gave way to more relaxed socializing, Zarin was drawn into conversation with other Illyrians. Harrison found himself standing with a group of human colonists, answering questions about his farming background. "We've been trying to adapt earth crops to the local soil composition," a young agronomist explained. Having someone with traditional knowledge could be invaluable. I'm willing to help however I can, Harrison offered. The bond doesn't interfere with your work? An older man asked bluntly. I've heard it can be distracting. Harrison considered how to answer. The constant awareness of Zarin and the children was indeed a new experience, but not in the way the man seemed to imply. It's more like having a compass, he finally said, always knowing which direction is home. The answer seemed to satisfy most, though a few exchanged skeptical glances. Harrison was saved from further questioning by Kiv's arrival, the boy bubbling with excitement. Dad, they have horses here. Real Earth horses, he exclaimed. And a man said I could learn to ride. Harrison smiled at the boy's enthusiasm. Did he now? Well, I think that could be arranged. As weeks passed, their family settled into life at New Dawn Colony. The children began attending the Mixed Education Center, where curriculum incorporated both human and Illyrian knowledge. Zarin joined the energy integration team, her unique understanding of both systems making her a valuable asset. Harrison found purpose in the agricultural district, helping to develop hybrid growing techniques. Their bond deepened with each passing day. What had begun as a desperate arrangement was evolving into something genuine. At night, when the children were asleep, Harrison and Zarin would sit together, sometimes talking, sometimes in comfortable silence, allowing their connection to strengthen naturally. They learned each other's stories, not just the broad strokes of war and loss, but the small details that made up a life. Zarin told Harrison about her childhood on an Illyrian outpost world, where the sky was perpetually dawn-colored. Harrison shared memories of his parents, his early years on the farm. The dreams he'd once had before war changed everything. Slowly, carefully, they began to build trust beyond the bond, creating a foundation for whatever might grow between them. The colony itself was not without challenges. Tensions occasionally flared between human and Illyrian residents. Cultural misunderstandings led to heated disputes in community forums. Some on both sides questioned the wisdom of integration, arguing for more separated development. During one particularly contentious town meeting, Harrison found himself speaking up, surprising even himself. Before I came here, he told the gathering, I thought I knew what Illyrians were, enemies who had taken everything from me. Then one knocked on my door. He glanced at Zarin, drawing strength from her presence. What I've learned is that labels, human, Illyrian, hybrid, they tell us nothing about the individual. My family is proof of that. His words didn't resolve the immediate dispute, but they seemed to resonate with many present. Afterward, several colonists, both human and Illyrian, approached to express their agreement. You have a way of bridging perspectives, the colony director told him. We need more voices like yours in leadership. Harrison demurred, uncomfortable with the attention, but the seed had been planted. In the months that followed, he found himself increasingly involved in colony governance, alongside his agricultural duties. Nearly 6 months after their arrival, Harrison stood in the doorway of their home, watching Zarin help the children with a school project. Alara was explaining something about energy conversion, while Kiv constructed a model using materials from both worlds. Rex dozed nearby, now fully adapted to colony life. A profound sense of contentment washed over Harrison. This was his family. Unconventional, unexpected, but undeniably his. Through their bond, he felt Zarin's awareness of his presence. She looked up, meeting his eyes with a smile that conveyed understanding without words. That night, after the children were asleep, they sat on their small balcony, as had become their custom. The colony lights created a gentle glow around them, and above, stars both familiar and strange painted the night sky. I received a communication from Earth today, Harrison said. My old neighbor, Jenkins. Apparently, the authorities are still occasionally watching my property. Do you miss it? Zarin asked. Your farm. Harrison considered the question. I miss what it represented, continuity, family history. But the land itself. He shook his head. This is home now. Zarin's hand found his, their fingers intertwining naturally. The energy of their bond flowed between them, stronger and smoother than ever. When I knocked on your door that night, she said softly, I was prepared to offer anything for my children's safety. I never imagined finding someone who would become so essential to us, to me. Harrison turned to face her. In the months they'd been bonded, they had built a partnership based on mutual respect and growing affection. But there had always been a careful distance, an acknowledgement of their unusual beginnings. "Zarin," he said, her name feeling right on his lips, "I think we've taken long enough to know each other properly." Her eyes, with their distinctive Illyrian vertical pupils, widened slightly. Through their bond, he felt her sudden hope mixed with uncertainty. "What are you saying, Harrison?" "I'm saying that while our bond may have started as necessity, what I feel for you now has nothing to do with obligation." He brushed a strand of her silvery hair back from her face. "I'm saying that I would choose you today, knowing all I know about you." Zarin's joy flowed through their connection, bright and warm. "As I would choose you." When their lips met, the lights throughout their dwelling brightened momentarily, a physical manifestation of the energy surging between them. This kiss was a beginning rather than an ending, a promise rather than a payment. Later, as they lay together in the darkness, their bond humming with new depth and richness, Harrison reflected on the extraordinary path that had led him here. From solitary grief to unexpected family, from bitter memories to new possibilities. All because he had answered a knock at his door on a stormy night, opening not just his home, but his heart to strangers who would become his own. Some decisions, Harrison knew, changed everything. And some changes, even the most frightening and unexpected ones, were exactly what the soul needed to heal and grow. As he drifted towards sleep, Zarin's head resting on his shoulder and their bond pulsing gently between them, Harrison felt something he had thought lost forever: peace.